Hello and welcome back to the Two is Better Than One podcast featuring
Rachel Crawford
and Zara Crawford and today's special guest,
Jess Crawford.
3 is better than 1.
Yes, officially. No, sorry, we can't change it now. It's a whole system of setting up like the names, and it took me long enough
With
to
all
set
the
up the
graphics.
email and yeah. But it is true. 3 is better than 1. It's official. It's happening. You're signed up. You're not going anywhere, Jess.
Thank you so much.
We knew that from the moment we met you, though, that you're not going anywhere. You're going to become a Crawford, and I suppose we'll do a quick intro of who Jessica Crawford is, for those of you who don't know, and if they don't, they're silly anyway, and they're probably not a part of our lives, so...
True.
Because you've been a part of ours for so long, but do you want to do a little intro?
Yeah, so I am Jess, obviously. I am Rachel's son's wife.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
so Hayden's wife. We have been together for nearly 10 years, which is crazy. It makes me feel super old.
That's nuts.
And now we've got 2 little babes. We've got Amabel, who is just over 2, and Leo, who is just over 3 months.
Yay! The loves of all of our lives, I think, right now.
And they're downstairs at the moment.
Yes. Thank you, Pa.
Yes, for minding the kids while we talk. So we've been on a bit of a hiatus with the podcast lately.
We haven't done
Stuff
anything
happening.
for a while, but we have had a few hiccups. You were sick.
Mm-hmm.
I was away.
And then I was away
Yeah.
again.
Again.
'Tis the season, isn't it? Where we're all busy, we're all doing stuff, but come together anyway when we can, every Sunday.
Yay.
Yes, it's when we usually film. So let's talk a little bit, Jess, about, I suppose, being a health and fitness podcast. We tend to like to talk about health and fitness journeys. So, and with you being a new mum, that gives us a new perspective that we haven't talked about on the podcast yet.
Yeah.
So, how's your health and fitness journey at the moment?
Yeah, I think after having kids, pretty much everything is different. So you're shorter on time, you are relied on by someone else, and I think you sort of put yourself on the back burner a lot. But physically as well, your body's gone through so much of a change, and you sort of have to start back from square one, or even further back than square one, because leading up to having the kids, I was pretty fit. I was training like 7 times a week, and I was doing really well with that sort of thing. And then having the kids, I sort of just started walking, and that was about all the exercise I could manage.
Yeah.
So but I think I'm starting now to get on top of running a house with 2 kids, which is a little bit more mayhem than 1.
Yeah.
And starting to prioritize myself a bit more. So even just like mental health things, like taking half an hour to go and get my eyebrows done, or like making myself a healthy breakfast, so I'm starting off the day well, and little things like that. So I think trying to find your place and put yourself first, because if you're not put first, then your kids don't have anyone to sort of rely on then. So
That's right.
trying to put that into perspective, I think for myself was pretty important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
so
the right attitude to have, but sometimes it doesn't quite work like
that
that.
way.
No.
I think back to when I had kids, and it was, the day would go so quickly. You would think, how did I work 8 hours before? And now it just, you wake up and the day is gone. And you feel like some days you achieved nothing, you didn't do anything for yourself, you're still half in your pajamas and half dressed, and you haven't left.
You managed to put your hair up that day and brush it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you haven't left the house.
Yeah.
And it could be so, you get down on yourself, you get you're all caught up in just looking after the kids, and that's all it's all about. It seems like your whole life is day to day.
Yeah.
And that's like that for so long as well.
Yeah.
So
I think the first 8 weeks too is like a massive shell shock, because that's when you're still, figuring out feeding and figuring out who they are and like what they're like, their temperament. And, it's a new thing for your firstborn as well. Like, I think the biggest thing for me was making sure I had one day to myself when Em was at daycare and it was just me and him, and we just sit there, not clean the house, not sort anything out for the day, just be there, him and me. And, getting takeout's not a bad thing sometimes. Like, if it's going to take a load off you mentally and physically at home and, little things like that, just trying to let go of being in control of everything, because sometimes it's not how it works.
Yeah. And I think nowadays too, there's this pressure of being the perfect parent, because you see them on social media and like there's mums and they've curled their hair and they wear these beautiful clothes and they still can look after the kids, and it's like, that's not reality.
And they've got a six-pack.
Yeah,
and they're working out at the gym and they're doing this and they're going back to work and they're... But, no, that's not reality.
No.
I've had someone say to me, like, how often do you feed and how often do you do that? And, like, how do you handle this? And after I explained everything to them, they were like, geez, you seem so well put together for someone that, like, has to feed every 3 hours and do this and do that. And I was like, that's because it's all a facade. Like, I'm different here to when I'm at home, and like, you should see me on my slouchy days. I'm in my pajamas. I haven't done my hair or brushed my teeth. Yeah. Sometimes I'm lucky to have a shower. Like, it's all, you've got to be realistic about it. I think parenthood is it's amazing, but it's a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. And so then how do you go about making sure that you get that time in? Because, like, in terms of scheduling that in, some days that would be so hard to figure out. Yeah. So how do you manage that?
I think for myself, I try not to plan things. So, like, we plan play dates and stuff like that, which is great because then Em's entertained, and, if something goes wrong, it's easy enough to call someone and be like, it's just not my day today. And if I have other mum friends, and they usually understand if I say that. But, like little things like I will tell my mum, I've got an appointment in 2 weeks. Do you think you could look after just one of the kids for half an hour? And when Hayden's home, making sure that we have time as well. So we'll try to get the kids down at a relatively good time. Doesn't always work. Just so that we can have dinner together or have a human discussion.
Grown-up discussion.
Yeah. But yeah, trying also not to put pressure on myself to make those plans. But yeah, if I start off my morning well and everything's going right, making sure I've got just the one thing in the morning for me is like just making myself a smoothie. Like that makes me feel really good and that puts me in a good mood for the day. And I think that sort of, helps me with planning out. I usually do a monthly plan and I scratch it off every day.
Normally you are so before the kids even you were the most list-driven, organised person, and Ash and I, we had a discussion once that I don't know how she's going to go with these babies
because everything doesn't go to plan.
So unpredictable, and she loves to be so organised and everything.
I have lists of lists. That's true. I think just embracing the change though. So, there was a day where I had things planned and I really wanted to go downtown and I wanted to, order the groceries online. Like I do little things like that so I'm not feeling like I have to leave the house. So I order the groceries and Hayden will pick them up when he's off. Little things like that help get the house back to normal when he's off shift. But I had one day where I wanted to do all those things and I had 5 things planned, and Leo just was not happy that day, and Em was full of energy, and we embraced the day and we just sat in front of the TV and I just fed him all day, and it was just, it was actually kind of nice just to, even though I was a little disappointed because I didn't get to do anything, I think it was nice just to be with the kids, and once you get that, take the positive from what you think is a negative situation, I think it turns it all around for you. So what could have been a bad day actually ended up quite nice. So just not putting pressure on yourself to prioritize everything, and taking time for yourself but not feeling like you have to have a whole day for yourself either. It can just be little things
take the little moments and hold on to them and just go
exactly.
with the flow. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, well, I can't relate.
Zara has no babies.
No babies, but I've had clients with lots of babies.
Yes.
Like, I have a client that comes to our women's group, and she's got 7
Wow.
kids at home, and they're within all sorts of different age groups, so teenagers down to babies, like.
Good on you, Mama.
Yeah, tell you what. Oh man, but like she's always asking me tips and tricks of like how do I like manage my food in that case, and how do I please everyone, sort of thing. And so like the sessions that we do get together is an opportunity for her to just sort of like let go and just forget about everything, but also keep in mind that like what she's doing is for her kids, and that's her biggest motivator for staying healthy, is so that she can do her best job as a mother.
Yeah,
sort of
I think you've got to have your why. You've got to have a reason to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it's family.
Yeah.
What a strong motivator. I don't think you can get anything more motivating
Well,
than...
see, having 7 children, I reckon anything over 3, you're dedicated to, that's your job. You're dedicated to your family. That's your passion, your mission, your everything is, especially with big families like 7, that's crazy. But what a great life.
Yeah.
You know, to have all that love in the house.
Yeah.
So cool.
Just loves it. Like, yeah. You live and breathe it, I think, after a certain amount of kids.
You would. And the big ones do help with the little ones.
Yeah.
I know in my family of 5, you know, my eldest sister was looking after me when as we're 12 years apart. So having kids, a lot of kids, you know, pretty spaced out. It works out okay sometimes.
They raise themselves.
Yeah.
Each other. They raise each other.
They help each other through.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
That's the beauty of big families, for sure. Yeah.
So my next question, do you think you'll have more?
No pressure.
I think you need to talk to Hayden about this. Yes, I do. I think if you look at Leo and he smiles at you, then you could not want more. If I could have a massive family, I would. I don't know how crazy I'll be allowed to go, but yeah.
How many more?
Yeah. Next question.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about your career right now, right at this very time? So Emmy's 2, Leo's, how many weeks is he now?
He's
3 months.
Yeah.
And just looking ahead into the future, how do you feel things are going to travel?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like there's 2 ways it can go, and you can be like really excited to go back to work and really need that space from the kids, or you can really just want to stay at home and enjoy that time. And I don't think everyone has the choice that they want either. So for us, like, I would love to be able to stay home with the kids, but like financially it's just probably not viable at the moment, which we sort of knew going into it. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to go back, because I'll be going back probably 2 days a week, and that means Leo will be going into daycare, so that sort of gives you a different level of anxiety, because he'll be quite little when he does go to care, or even if he goes to like one of the grandparents or something, it's still still something you got to think about, and it's a lot for a mum to manage, I think, especially with feeding and stuff like that. I know a lot of mums going back to work are really anxious about the feeding and stuff like that. But it's really good to have, where I work is quite a supportive environment, and they've got, like nursing rooms and stuff. You can take your kids up there to feed them and all that kind of thing. They're very family orientated, but yeah, I think it's still a challenge whether you're excited to go back or not. There's different levels of anxiety for everyone.
Do you think women feel pressured to go back earlier now than... Because you've got friends with little ones and... Yeah,
I definitely do. I think a lot of bosses, from what I've heard, like a lot of mums want to take the 12 months off, but a lot of bosses would prefer them to come back around the 6-month mark or so, or even earlier for some. So I know it's about 3-4 months for general maternity leave. So like that's like they're still a baby, like they still rely on you 100%. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure to go back for a lot of mums, I think, and I think a lot of that comes from bosses, whether they're male or female doesn't really matter. But I know a lot of male bosses, you know, they haven't grown up in a world where they've just grown up in a different world, like, where they didn't have to raise the kids. They don't sort of understand. That's sort of been my experience from a few previous employers. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like, I think there's a lot of pressure and a lot of anxiety for new mums to go back, and that's hard to juggle.
Like, statistics kind of show that what's holding women back in the workforce is being at home and having that time off a lot of the time can hold them back.
Yeah.
And going back to work part-time, which they can't fully focus on their career and have, you know, a nice several children as well as... You can't do it all. There's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
So that's where, you know, they're struggling to find balance in their life and with work and kids and family. And
yeah, definitely. And I think this year has been a good one for like work-life family balance. Like, I think all of that stuff has sort of come up this year where, you know, parents are working from home and it's either really difficult because you're still homeschooling and all of that kind of thing, or it's just been an absolute godsend, like being home and being able to see your kids and not having to send them, you know, to daycare or to their grandparents. You can actually see them through the day. And I think this year's been a bit of a roller coaster, but I think there's been a silver lining for some people as well. Yeah.
Definitely.
The whole new world.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Like, I know from my perspective that, like, with my role at work, if I were to have kids right now, I would just be like... and it's my focus. It's what I'm working towards sort of thing. And I feel like if I did have kids right now, it would just set me back.
Yeah.
Like, which is such a terrible thing, you know? Like...
you think you should be able to do that.
Yeah, and
if
still,
you want to at this time of your life, and still be able to work on your career, but you can't. No, you can't, because you're just not in the role. You're not doing the job because you're raising children, which is a full-time job.
Yeah,
like you said, Jess, feeding every 3 hours. How do you work around that?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Especially if you're working from an office and you've got to go, you know, take a break and go back and see your child if you don't want to express and come back. Like, it's a very timely thing. But in those first 8 weeks, I think that's why it's the hardest, because you're feeding on demand, but it's an hour feed. Like, it's a long stint. So I think that's where a lot of people sort of want to throw in the towel, which I totally get. But for me, going back to work, like, I've worked full time since I was I don't know, 15, maybe 16.
Yeah, I was going to say, for as long as I've known you.
Yeah, I've been a full-timer. Yeah, and, you know, usually working extra hours and stuff like that as well. But then going back to work in between the kids, I went back on 3 days, and that was sort of hard enough for me because I would have to catch up on those 2 days that I'm off. It would take me an hour to catch up on emails and chats, and because we were working remotely, you can't just go up to someone and be like, what's new this week? You have to actually go through everything, and, you know, it's just, there's a massive load before you even get into your work. Like, and then I ended up taking on another night job, which super smart. Took on another 15 hours a week. So I was pretty much working full-time hours, just, you know, whenever I could in between the kids, and it was mayhem. So, you know, you work 3 full days and then you come home and you do another 3 spaced out 5-hour shifts. It's a lot. But I think there's a lot of, I don't know, it's tough. Like, it can either be, you know, financial, or it can just be that, you know, you need something else to sustain you, like, in your career, or
mentally.
A little bit of space. And
I really needed something. I was always doing something. So I started
when we were little.
Yeah. So I was working shift work at Hungry Jack's. Oh, believe it or not.
The irony
I'm
in
going to
that.
tell you my working history.
Yeah.
So I started off at Hungry Jack's. I worked there as a kid. And then had Hayden when I was 19 and I was still working there, and Ash had some time off, so we kind of, because it was shift work, we would work opposite shifts and look after Hayden. And then I got pregnant with you, Zara.
Yeah.
And then we managed to do the same, to be able to handle it with a bit of daycare, and I was still working the shift work and everything. And then I got pregnant with Luke and then decided to move to Orange. And that's when I started doing family daycare from home, so I could actually work at home and be with the kids, which totally made sense for me. And then after a few years of doing that, went back into the workforce and did a couple of other jobs, and the kids were a bit bigger and all in school. But everything else... Oh, I did Tupperware.
I was going to say, you missed a big
Tupperware.
one.
That was a big part of my life, and it was the direct selling party plan thing. And I never do anything by halves. I always do it 110%.
Yeah.
So I went all out and I recruited people, and I had the company car, and I was earning a good wage of doing about 7 parties a week. And that was mainly on the weekend. So I'd be working all weekend. Ash would work all week. We'd hardly ever see each other. But I was still working, and I was getting out, and I was earning money, and I was stimulated by other adults. That was good to, conversation, and just, it was good. It was a really good thing to do. And that's how I got through continuing to the financial side of it.
Yeah.
Which was important for us because we were a low income family, trying to make do. Being young and 3 kids at the age of 24, I had my 3rd one, so yeah.
Which I'm 25 right now, and I can't imagine.
What are you doing, Zara? Come on, get on the program.
3 kids and I can't imagine doing my career right now and being where I am in my career if I did have the 3 kids. And once again, it's just that balance thing.
And I think you touched on something else too with the, trying to find the work-life balance. It's not just, for you and the kids. It's also your partner. He's working all week and you're working all weekend. You never get to see him. That'd be so hard. But it's an expectation now that you just, you go back to work and you do what you've got to do to provide for your family now. So I don't think that really comes into anyone's mind, how much you're going to miss out on your partner or any of that. It's all about the kids all of a sudden.
You give up so much as a parent.
Yeah.
And also, but to make do in that financial pressure, the kids miss out too. Because you can't take them, you can't let them do every sport they want to do. You can't take them to every activity. You can't. Yeah, you just can't. You don't get to go to their presentation days. You don't get to volunteer at the sports carnival. You don't get to do all those kind of things because you're at work.
Yeah.
As a working parent.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not like what you see on social media and you get to go on holidays every year and you get to, that's not a sustainable,
No.
that's not for every person. You can't, expect that it's going to be, easy to financially support your family and then go and do all these fancy things and do all the sports and all the music and all the, all the extracurricular stuff as well. You miss out on a fair bit if you're a working parent, but
and if you can do that, you're so blessed. If your husband's on a great wicket and he's working, and you get to, run the kids around to every soccer game and swimming lessons and doing all of that stuff, even when they're at school, and that's great.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
I think though, there's also this stigma of the housewife nowadays of oh, well, you're just at home, your life's pretty easy if you just get to do that. But I'm a mum that also has to work. It's everyone's different. And if you could, you would do the same.
Exactly.
That you would be with your kids. But it's not
And that's not for everyone either. It doesn't make you a bad parent if you want to go back to work. It doesn't make you a bad parent if you want to stay at home and not work. Everyone has, everyone's different. Everyone's got different priorities and different needs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think being a stay-at-home mum, like, you do a kick-ass job, mamas.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
Reach out to them. Yeah, absolutely.
Because that is a full-time job in itself. And by job, I mean jobs. You're a chef and a taxi and a cleaner and
So
you're everything. Yeah, I think...
And a teacher and...
Yeah,
everything.
and no matter whether you're a stay-at-home mum or a working mum, I think you're doing a good job because it's hard to maintain either way. Parenthood is challenging.
Yeah. And then I suppose the other thing that you sacrifice as a mum is your body. Going through all that pregnancy and then giving birth and all that aftermath sort of thing.
Yeah.
So how was your recovery after your last bubba, Leo?
Yeah, so I found that it was a lot slower this time around than when we had M. I can't train through any of my pregnancies, so I find it really hard to... I got the all clear to walk this time, but even just that, like if you're really sick or, you know, if you've got back pain or anything like that, like you don't prioritize that stuff because you've got to go with what your body's telling you.
Yeah.
But yeah, this time around it was a bit slower. Like I'm still trying to work up to even doing a class. Like going for walks is fine, but there's only so long you can be on your feet before you're like, oh, I need to take a seat. Yeah, it's a slow process, but yeah, I think if you are motivated enough to, you know, make a change or be it, for me it's been a role model for Em, like her seeing me eating better and you know, getting outside and stuff like that, having fun, going to the park, just doing little things like that. And yeah, going swimming and stuff now that it's like summery.
Perfect.
It's been heaps better, but yeah, just taking little steps like that.
Build your way up.
Yeah, I think you're definitely starting from square one. Yeah, which I think you don't sort of realize until you have kids. You're like, oh yeah, it'll be fine, like I'll get back into it, even if you're training right up. Yeah, afterwards it's a long stint. So I'm looking forward to doing a few more classes with Rach. I've been doing some stretch classes though, so they've been really good. They've you know, sort of a bit of time out for myself as well. But just sort of recognizing my body again. So yeah, just the stretches just make you feel relaxed.
And
so nice.
What program are you doing for your stretch classes? Like, is it an online thing or
no, just through Rach? Yeah,
at the PCYC.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, on a Friday morning.
Yeah. Now I've learned something new. Mum's doing stretch classes. I should come too.
You should come.
Stretching is very underestimated with how much it can change your body, and how good it is for your joints and your muscles. Like, it helps strengthen your muscles. A lot of people don't realize that. They just think, oh, I just got to lift heavy weights to get stronger in your muscles, but that's not the case.
And you don't have to start somewhere big either. You can start somewhere small. Like it might not be an exercise class as such, like you were saying, like it's not a class, but yeah, I think starting somewhere like that and just, you know, taking a minute to do something for yourself and
checking in with your body.
It was recognizing which parts of my body was like sore. Like I hold a lot of tension in my shoulders and back from feeding, so rolling that out was just like heaven. Like,
so we use the foam rollers, and we do stretching and some mobility movement as well.
And I don't think you realize how much of a toll like carrying a toddler or feeding or anything like that takes on your body either. Or how tight your muscles get when you're not using them.
Especially in that same position for a long time.
Feeding, holding, even just things like your wrists. So this is something I learnt recently, is that it's quite common to get carpal tunnel as new mums because of how often you're holding the baby and what position you're holding them in. Sort of puts pressure on that wrist nerve a lot of the time, and so then you can end up with some actually permanent damage if you're not looking after it. So that's a good one to keep in mind. But it's things like that you wouldn't even think of really that you want to have in the back of your mind, and you can't unless you're paying attention to your body and listening to it.
That's right.
And that's why there's stretch class or Pilates, yoga, that sort of class where you're slowing down. You're not running around after the kids. You're actually slowing down and doing something for your body where you can listen to it.
Yeah.
It'll tell you everything you need to know.
And even at the end, like we do some breathing at the end and just sort of check in with everything. So, you know, taking those deeper breaths. I don't think you realise as a mum how much you hold your breath. Yeah, little things like that. Like, I know that would really help people who are really anxious, and going to a class can be really scary as well, especially if you have to take your child because you don't know if they're going to cry or if they're going to, you know, if they're going to sleep the whole time, which would be a godsend, but it doesn't always happen. So yeah, that can be another point of anxiety for mums, but I think finding someone who's willing to, you know, take all of that in and who is really flexible and doesn't make you feel like rubbish if your child is crying through the class. Like, yeah, I think that's really important. So
yeah, there's not many mums and bubs exercise classes out there.
No,
So that's
not
something
enough.
that we can encourage other exercise professionals to get out there and help that market, because it's one step back into getting into exercise again for these mums who have been out of their routine for a long time. Like, and it doesn't take long to start your body to start deconditioning, and you're losing that strength and muscle tone and mass, which is what's happening as you're looking after this little bub. And then to try and get back into it, it's like coming out of an injury or a operation or something. You know, that's how full on it can be when you've
even more so, I would think,
Yes.
because it's not just one joint that you've injured. It's
your
like,
body has gone through a massive thing.
and not just physically but hormonally as well, like,
and mentally.
totally changed.
Totally. So it's a massive thing to actually try and get back into that exercise routine and how to do it and how it's going to work for your body and what you can and can't do, what your pelvic floor can and can't do.
That one's that needs no words. That's something really important for, I think, every care provider should be talking to their clients about, because that's something that, like, you know, I have a really great obstetrician who talks to me about that stuff, but a lot of women don't get that. And like in those first 6 weeks, you're not meant to pick up anything heavier than your child. Like you can't lift a chair. Do you know what I mean? You can't do the laundry, like little things like that. You don't realise that it's still an ongoing healing process 6 weeks later. So yeah, I think finding that out was fun. Especially when you've got another one running around. I couldn't lift her for a while. And she had to be very independent, getting herself back up in the high chair or in the car seat or into her cot. I think a lot of encouragement from care providers would be really good in that sort of space. Yeah,
listen to your professionals. Hopefully you've got some good ones working with you.
And that if you have a personal trainer or someone of a like a good, even just a group instructor, that like hopefully they will know enough to
fingers crossed.
It's
a bit of an issue. You have to be really careful, and when you do go back, if you are going back to personal training, like I've trained women through their pregnancies and then they've come back at the 6 week mark and then they want to go gangbusters and get straight back into it, and then I've got to try and pull them back and really gently give them the exercises that they need and can do and are good for their body at that very time. So, but it's good that they're back, because then they're getting, mentally, it's really good for them. As well as physically. I think the mental side of it, especially if they're not getting much social interaction outside of, you know, being at home with bub, they're not going to any play groups, or if they're not doing much else, then it's really exercise to get there and have chat.
And I think it's really important too to, like, if you don't feel comfortable with your, you know, for example, your PT, if you're training and you're doing something that doesn't feel right, listen to your body. Because
tell your trainer.
They should sort of know what's going on, but at the same time it's your body, and everyone's body will react differently to going back to exercise as well. So you know, one lady might be able to do, you know, a lunge perfectly, but it might not work with you. Like, that's totally okay. You can do something else.
There's always an option.
There's no
especially
rush.
if you have a good trainer. There's always an option.
Definitely.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Well, we're 35 minutes in. I cannot believe how quick that's gone.
That went super quick with the 3 Crawfords.
Yeah. We could talk forever, I'm sure, but we
could.
might have to wrap it up. Any final notes? We'll try and fit one more podcast in before Christmas, maybe.
Sure.
We
could do it Thursday night.
Yeah. We are going to have a bit of a break anyway. We're travelling and doing all sorts of stuff, but then we'll start off fresh in the new year because everyone's going to have those New Year resolutions. I'm sure. I know I do. So we can talk about those. Keep me motivated and on track. You guys can all keep me accountable.
What about me? Keep me accountable.
Okay. We'll do it all together.
All right.
Good.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That
I
was
think,
so good.
that was really nice to have a chat with you guys. But I think if I can leave you with one thing, I think just know that you're doing a good job, Mama. That's you're doing a good job, no matter how you feel about it. You're doing a good job.
No matter how you're doing. Yeah, you're doing your best.
Yes, that's right.
Love it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next time. Okay, bye.
Bye.